Hello everyone, my name is Claire from Clarity Wellness Coaching. Taking a bit of a holistic OT perspective today on barefoot minimalist shoes, and we'll be talking about what's the difference between those. I know these have been very popular, and this is just my own experience, my own opinion about these things. So first of all, in OT, we have a lot of theories that talk about finding a good fit between the person, the environment, and the task that they are performing. So for me, that's quite helpful in thinking about barefoot and minimalist shoes versus traditional shoes. And we'll dive right in. I realize this is a bit small, so I'll just kind of talk about the first feature of barefoot shoes, minimalist shoes, is that there is no heel. So we can compare like a traditional shoe, Doc Martens or DMs as they're called in England. As you can see, there's quite a difference between the heel and the toe. So that's about an inch, a little bit less than an inch difference. Whereas with barefoot or minimalist shoes, this is one from Groundies, Little Booty. You can see actually they're made to have no drop. It's called zero drop, so there should be no difference, and your foot is completely flat on the ground. And sometimes they'll make the outside look a little bit higher to make it look more like traditional shoes, but actually inside it's completely flat where your foot, is. So that's one of the big features, and you can find traditional shoes that have that as well. But one thing to take into consideration that I found out right away is that if you're hiking or if you're walking up a hill on an incline, even going upstairs, if you're not used to using flat shoes for that or going barefoot for that, it's really different. And for me, I'm 46 years old and trying to hike in California at first and here in England. For me, that was quite uncomfortable, and I started getting pain in my heel. Also because there's no cushioning, but also just because I didn't have that heel in a traditional hiking shoe, even sports shoe. You're going to have that heel, and that means that if you're already on an incline, it puts a bit of space between the incline and your heel, so it makes the basically your foot at the ankle, it would be less of an extreme angle, if you know what I mean. So that's one thing to look out for. Now, some people can get used to that. For me, that plus the no cushioning on the heel, I decided I actually want to use traditional hiking shoes when I go hiking. I've had injuries in my life, with my pelvis, and I just thought, you know what, I have had all these other issues, so for me, it's not worth it to like train and put in the hours to get used to that. So we'll go right into the next one, which is about what I already talked about no cushioning. So you do need to learn how to walk if you wear barefoot shoes. There's lots of videos on that, but basically you want to use a more rolling motion, if you do come down on your heel first. Some people talk about with barefoot shoes going toe first. I find when you're walking, you still go heel first, but you want to do more of a rolling motion to absorb some of that shock. And especially if you're doing a lot of walking on hard surfaces such as concrete, which a lot of us do. Now, if you're a runner, you're running on trucks and it's softer, then I know barefoot runners do tend to do a toe strike, some of them first, and I could see the benefits of that. Another feature that I'm going to skip to actually is the minimum structure and support around the foot. So a shoe like this, it's quite hard leather. So some traditional shoes could have very floppy kind of leather, and that means there isn't a lot of structure. I know one brand, was it Clark's? They had a line called Unstructured, which means they're supposed to have less structure. So it's less hard materials around your feet. But something like this, it's quite like boxy and it really holds your foot in. But so the benefits of having something floppier like this, you can see it's like super floppy, right? Everything about it is floppy. It can move in all directions. The benefits of that is that it allows your foot to move more naturally, and that means we have like all these muscles in our feet alone, tiny muscles, that a lot of them might not get used if we're using traditional shoes all the time. So the advantage of this is it does allow you to move naturally. It doesn't restrict movement, which means you can build up those muscles. However, that plus the less cushioning, if you're walking a lot on uneven, like concrete, uneven ground that's hard, maybe hiking where there's a lot of rock, not just soft ground, then you do need to think about that and maybe working up very gradually. For me, I found that hard to do with my lifestyle, to have the hours, and how do you do it gradually? Do I carry another pair of shoes? These are lightweight, but traditional shoes tend to be a bit heavier. It depends on what shoe it is, right? So if I go back to the minimum structure here, the possible dangers of that is that you could roll your ankle. The good thing, again, possible benefit, is you're feeling the ground a lot. And I put that with a minimum cushioning as well. But it goes with all of those features, that because you're feeling the ground, if you are on rocks or uneven ground, you can adjust because you can actually feel it. Whereas on traditional shoes, you're not going to be able to feel it. So you can't adjust as well your positioning. And even your foot, like in these kind of things, you could conceivably kind of even curve around a rock if you're balancing on a rock, right? So again, thinking about the environment you're in and the task that you're wanting to do. Are you hiking? Are you walking briskly to work? Are you in Europe or England, like I am now, where you need to walk many hours, sometimes a day, on hard and uneven concrete and cobblestones? If you are, then you need to think about that and how old you are. Someone transitioning when they're a teenager or in their 20s, that could be easier than someone like me in their 40s or later. I have heard people have cured, plantar fasciitis, this kind of thing, by transitioning later in life. But I've also heard people and me who started having plantar fasciitis who never had it before in life. So it's just pros and cons. So a lot of it is really individual. So I would say, if you're really interested in it, you can go in a very gradual manner. And for me, what I've found is actually, what works best for me is taking some of those features depending on what I'm doing, So if I'm home a lot, I don't want, a lot of slippers at home are flat, but some of them have heels. And I decided, for sure, I do not want to walk around and stand around my kitchen with heels. I don't need that. So one of the possible benefits of having that flat is that it allows, your tailbone to kind of go down. It's like being in yoga class. You can have a better alignment, more natural alignment, right? Whereas if we always have a heel, a little, even an inch heel or higher, then, it definitely tilts our pelvis this way and puts more, curve into our lower back, and, lumbar is called lordosis, all those kind of things. So we need to think about that. So for me, again, having a little bit of heel when I'm hiking, that is beneficial to me. But if I'm standing around in my kitchen, walking around my place, I don't need that heel, if you know what I mean. So for me, what works well is taking some of the features and thinking about that. And one that I didn't talk about is arch support. So in minimalist and barefoot shoes, there's very little arch support. But if you're someone who has always had a weak arch, you could try strengthening it that way. But if you've already tried and it's still not strengthening, you might need some of that. And if it's causing other problems, you might need a little bit of support. Or if you've had previous injuries, So I would just encourage you to just experiment and go very mindfully. When I first started wearing these shoes, I found that I couldn't talk on the phone and have a long walk. I had to really be mindful to do that rolling motion, and just see which features work for you, because there are traditional shoes you can find that are flatter, that have less arch support, and that have a wider toe box. And that's the main feature for me that I like, that I actually haven't written on here, is I like a wider toe box no matter what I'm wearing, that my feet can kind of spread out as wide as they would naturally. And as you wear these shoes and you let them spread out, you'll see your feet will kind of naturally spread, and if you had any toes that were kind of curved under, they might start to be able to separate more. So for me, that's probably the main feature that I really like. But I've always worn traditional shoes that were quite good in that way, but it's made me even more conscious of that. So I think I'll stop there because it's been already 10 minutes, but I'll show you this kind of chart that I made. Again, my name is Claire from Clarity Wellness Coaching. You can email me if you have any questions, and if you'd like to subscribe, I will be making more, showing my favorite barefoot shoes, and also just comparing kind of a traditional versus barefoot shoes, because I have a lot of in each version and when I would use them and not. All right, take care. Have a great day. Bye.